Dr. Lisa Carter was drinking her third cup of coffee when the alarms started screaming throughout the space station. She nearly dropped her mug as red lights flashed in the small research lab where she had been studying alien plant samples. The coffee was terrible, like always, but it was the only thing that kept her awake during the long night shifts at Research Station Omega-7. All hands to battle stations. This is not a drill. Commander Jake Martinez's voice echoed through the speakers. Lisa had never heard him sound so serious before. Jake was usually the kind of person who made jokes, even when things went wrong. Lisa ran down the narrow hallways toward the command center. The station was small, with only 43 people living and working there. It was humanity's most distant outpost, floating in empty space far from Earth. Most people thought it was a boring assignment, but Lisa loved the quiet and the chance to study things no human had ever seen before. When she reached the command center, she saw something that made her stop breathing for a moment. Through the large windows, massive alien ships hung in space like dark clouds. They were bigger than anything humans had ever built. The ships looked like they were made of black metal that seemed to eat light instead of reflecting it. How many? Jake asked Lieutenant Amy Brooks, who was working at the communication station. 12 large ships, sir. Maybe more behind them, Amy replied. Her voice was steady, but Lisa could see her hands shaking a little as she typed on her keyboard. Dr. Sam Murphy, the station's physicist, was staring at his screens with wide eyes. Commander, their energy readings are off the charts. Those ships could destroy us without even trying hard. Jake nodded slowly. He was a tall man, with gray hair and kind eyes. Lisa had always thought he looked more like a teacher than a military commander. Any communication attempts? Yes, sir. They're sending a message now, Amy said. The main screen flickered, and suddenly they were looking at an alien face. The creature had pale blue skin and large black eyes. Its head was longer than a human head, and it had no hair. When it spoke, its voice sounded like metal scraping against stone. Humans of this station. I am Commander Vex of the Zephyrian Empire. We have studied your species. Your technology is primitive. Your military is weak. You will surrender immediately or be destroyed. The communication ended, leaving the command center in complete silence. Lisa looked around at her friends and co-workers. Everyone looked scared, which made sense. These aliens had ships that could probably destroy their entire station with one shot. But then Lisa did something that surprised everyone, including herself. She laughed. Dr. Carter? Jake asked, looking confused. Sorry, Lisa said, still smiling. It's just ... Did anyone else notice that he didn't ask us anything? I mean, we're the first humans he's ever talked to, and he didn't ask a single question about us. Sam frowned. Lisa, I don't think. This is the time for... No, wait, Lisa interrupted. Think about it. If you met a completely new species, wouldn't you be curious? Wouldn't you want to know things about them? But this guy just made demands. Jake was quiet for a moment. Lisa could see him thinking. Finally, he said, What are you suggesting? I'm suggesting we talk to them. Really talk to them. Not like they're conquerors, but like they're people who just traveled a very long way to meet us. Amy looked at Lisa like she was crazy. Dr. Carter, they threatened to destroy us. Yes, but maybe that's just how they start conversations, Lisa said. Some cultures on Earth used to greet strangers by trying to look scary too. Maybe it's normal for them. Jake was still thinking. Lisa could tell because he was rubbing his chin the way he always did when he was working through a problem. Open a channel, he said finally. Sir? Amy asked. You heard me. Open a channel to their ship. The alien commander appeared on screen. Again, his black eyes seemed to stare right through them. Have you decided to surrender? Lisa stepped forward before anyone could stop her. Hi there, I'm Dr. Lisa Carter. I was wondering, do your people have pets? The alien's expression didn't change, but he was quiet for several seconds. What is pets? You know, animals you keep around because you like them. They don't really do work, they just make you happy, like dogs or cats. This is not relevant to your surrender. Oh, I know, Lisa said cheerfully. I was just curious. I study living things, and I always wonder about what makes different species happy. Do you have children? Do they ask lots of questions like human children do? The alien commander looked confused now. You are facing destruction. Why do you ask about children? Because I think children are interesting. Human children ask about everything. Why is the sky blue? Why do birds fly? Why can't I eat candy? For breakfast? It drives adults crazy sometimes, but it's how we learn about the world. Jake was staring at Lisa, but she could see he was starting to understand what she was doing. She was treating this like a normal conversation between people who had just met. Do you want some coffee? Lisa asked. I have to warn you, it's terrible coffee, but it's hot and it has caffeine. Oh, do you know what caffeine is? It's a chemical that makes humans feel more awake. Amy was looking back and forth between Lisa and the screen like she was watching a tennis match. Sam had his mouth open. The alien commander was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice sounded different, less like scraping metal. Your behavior is not what we expected. Really? What did you expect? Fear, begging, surrender. Lisa nodded. That makes sense. Most people probably do get scared when big ships show up. But you know what? I'm curious about you. Your ships are beautiful, by the way. That black metal is amazing. Did your people design it, or did you learn it from someone else? We designed it ourselves. That's incredible. How long did it take? I bet there's a whole story behind it. The alien was staring at her now. You are very strange humans. Thank you, Lisa said. We try to be interesting. Would you like to see some of our research? We've been studying plants from different worlds. Oh, and we have this collection of videos of Earth animals doing funny things. Commander Martinez showed me one yesterday of a cat that was afraid of a cucumber. A cucumber? It's a green vegetable. For some reason, cats get scared when they see cucumbers behind them. Nobody knows why. It's one of those mysteries that makes life interesting. The alien commander looked at someone off-screen, then back. At them, we will consider your offer. We need time to discuss this. The communication ended. The command center was completely quiet. Everyone was staring at Lisa. Finally, Jake said, Dr. Carter, I think you just confused an alien invasion. Fleet, Lisa grinned. I think I did too. 3 hours later, the alien ships were gone. Amy had monitored their communications and heard them talking about needing to study human behavior patterns before proceeding. As Lisa poured herself another cup of terrible coffee, she realized something important. The aliens had expected humans to be like every other species they had conquered. But humans weren't like other species. Humans got curious about things. They asked questions. They offered coffee to strangers. Maybe that was exactly what would save them. Captain Ryan Davis was hiding behind a burned-out car when the alien ship landed in the middle of downtown Chicago. The ship was huge, like a metal mountain that had fallen from the sky. It crushed 3 buildings when it touched down, and now, strange blue lights were scanning the streets. 6 months had passed since the first contact at the space station. The aliens had come back with hundreds of ships this time. They attacked military bases first, then moved to cities. Their weapons turned tanks into melted metal and made fighter jets fall from the sky like dead birds. Ryan's radio crackled. Captain Davis, this is Sergeant Williams. We lost contact with headquarters. What are your orders? Ryan looked at his 12 remaining Marines. They had started the day with 30 men. Now half of them were gone, and the others looked scared and tired. Their weapons barely scratched the alien soldiers, who wore armor that seemed to eat bullets. "We keep moving," Ryan said into his radio. "Head to the old subway tunnels. We'll figure out our next move there." As they ran through the empty streets, Ryan saw something that made him stop. An old man was standing in front of a hardware store, holding a strange device. It looked like he had tied a car battery to a leaf blower and added some copper wire. "Sir, you need to get to safety," Ryan called out. The old man grinned. "Already am safe, soldier boy. Watch this." He pointed his device at an alien patrol walking down the street. When he pressed a button, lightning jumped from the device to the aliens. Their armor started sparking and smoking. The aliens stumbled and fell down. "How did you do that?" Ryan asked. "Name's Tony Sullivan. I fix cars for a living." These alien boys have fancy armor, but it's still just metal and electronics. Hit it with enough electricity, and it stops working real good. Ryan stared at the fallen aliens, then at Tony's homemade weapon. "Can you make more of those?" "Already did. Got a whole workshop full of them. You want to see?" 20 minutes later, Ryan was standing in Tony's garage, watching the mechanic explain his inventions to the Marines. The place looked like a mad scientist's laboratory. Workbenches were covered with alien parts, human tools, and devices that shouldn't exist. "This here's my favorite," Tony said, holding up what looked like a modified nail gun. "Takes alien power cells and shoots railroad spikes fast enough to punch through their armor. And this one shoots a net that conducts electricity, stops them cold." One of Ryan's Marines, a young woman named Lopez, picked up a device that looked like a flashlight attached to a car radio. "What's this one do?" "That's my communication scrambler. Messes with their helmet radios. Makes them confused and angry. They start shooting at each other sometimes." Ryan realized he was looking at something the military had missed. While the generals were trying to fight the aliens with conventional weapons, regular people were figuring out how to actually hurt them. "Tony, how would you like to help us fight these things?" Across the city, Dr. Helen Rodriguez was setting up her 5th mobile medical station of the week. She had been working at Chicago General Hospital when the aliens attacked. Instead of running away, she had loaded medical supplies into ambulances and started treating wounded people wherever she found them. "Dr. Rodriguez, we need to move again," said Nurse Kelly, a young woman who had volunteered to help. "The aliens are sweeping this area." Helen nodded as she finished bandaging a wounded police officer. "Where to this time?" "The old subway station on 5th Street. There's a group of survivors there who need medical attention." Helen had learned to work fast and move faster. The aliens seemed to target hospitals and medical facilities, but they ignored small groups of survivors. So she had broken her medical team into small units that could disappear quickly. As they loaded their supplies, Helen thought about what she had learned treating alien weapon wounds. The weapons used some kind of energy that burned in a specific pattern. She had developed new techniques for treating these burns, and she had taught them to nurses and volunteers across the city. "Doctor, look at this," Kelly said, holding up a strange device. It was alien technology, but someone had modified it with human parts. "Where did you get that?" "A kid brought it in. He said some mechanic is making weapons from alien parts. He wanted to know if we could use alien medical technology too." Helen examined the device. It was definitely alien, but the modifications were clearly human work. Someone had figured out how to make alien healing technology work with human medical equipment. She smiled. "I think we can." In a different part of the city, Maria Gonzalez was teaching a group of teenagers how to move silently through buildings. Maria had been a high school teacher before the invasion. Now she was training anyone who would listen. "Remember, the aliens can see heat, but they can't see through walls," she told the group. "So you use the buildings to hide your movement. And you never travel alone. Always have backup plans." One of the teenagers, a boy named Carlos, raised his hand. "Miss Gonzalez, why don't we just fight them directly?" "Because they're stronger than us," Maria replied. "But they're not smarter than us. They think in straight lines. They expect us to do what other species have done. But we're not other species." She had learned this from watching the aliens. They followed patterns. They cleared areas in the same way every time. They expected humans to behave like the other species they had conquered. But humans were unpredictable. "Carlos, what did you do last week when the aliens were searching your building?" "I hid in the laundry room." "Why there?" "Because it was noisy and hot. I figured they wouldn't think to look there." "Exactly. You thought about what they would expect, and you did something different. That's how we win." Maria had organized the survivors into small groups that could support each other. Some groups gathered information. Others found supplies. Some helped wounded people. Some built weapons and traps. The aliens expected humans to have a central command that they could destroy, but Maria's network had no center. If one group was captured, the others kept working. Back in Tony's garage, Ryan was talking on a radio that had been modified with alien technology. He was speaking to resistance groups across the city. "This is Davis. We have new weapons that work against alien armor. Repeat, we have weapons that work." Voices crackled back from different parts of the city. Dr. Rodriguez reported that she had alien medical technology working in her mobile hospitals. Maria Gonzalez said her intelligence networks had mapped alien patrol patterns. Other groups reported similar successes. Ryan realized something important was happening. The aliens had expected to conquer humanity by destroying their military and government. But humanity wasn't fighting back the way other species had. Instead of following military rules, humans were adapting and improvising. Every day, people like Tony Sullivan invented new weapons. Every day, people like Dr. Rodriguez developed new medical techniques. Every day, people like Maria Gonzalez found new ways to organize and coordinate. The aliens were winning battles, but they weren't winning the war. Every time they solved one human problem, 10 new problems appeared. They couldn't predict what humans would do next because humans weren't following any plan. As Ryan looked around Tony's garage at the impossible devices and the determined faces of his Marines, he understood something that the aliens didn't. Humans got more creative when things got difficult. They got more determined when things seemed hopeless. The aliens had made a mistake. They thought that superior technology would make humans give up. Instead, it had made humans more human than ever. "Tony," Ryan said, "how fast can you teach other people to make these weapons?" Tony grinned. "Faster than you think, Captain. Faster than you think." Colonel Beth Thompson counted the scratches on her cell wall for the 100th time. There were 47 of them, one for each day she had been in the alien prison camp. The walls were made of some kind of smooth metal that felt cold all the time. The aliens had built the prison in what used to be a football stadium in Denver. Beth looked around at the other prisoners in her cell block. There were 12 humans crammed into a space meant for 6. They had been soldiers, police officers, and civilians when they were captured. Now they were just tired people trying to survive. But Beth noticed something the aliens probably didn't expect. The humans weren't breaking down. They were getting organized. "Listen up," Beth whispered to her cellmates. "Johnson, what did you learn from the kitchen duty today?" Marcus Johnson was a thin man who had been a librarian before the war. The aliens had assigned him to food preparation because they thought he looked weak. They were wrong. The guards change shifts every 8 hours, Marcus whispered back. And they don't talk to each other much during the change. There's always a 3-minute gap where no one is watching the east corridor. Beth nodded. Marcus had been gathering information like this for weeks. The aliens thought they were watching the prisoners, but the prisoners were watching them right back. Linda, how are the other blocks doing? Linda Patterson had been a social worker before the invasion. She was good at talking to people and making them feel better. Now she was using those skills to keep the prison network connected. Block! She's ready to move when you give the signal, Linda said quietly. Block D has been teaching people how to pick locks using pieces of metal from their food trays. And Block F figured out how to make the alien communication devices play music. Music? Beth asked. Turns out the aliens hate our music. It makes them confused and angry. The guards in Block F keep arguing with each other because they can't concentrate. Beth smiled. This was exactly the kind of thing she had hoped for. The aliens had expected broken, hopeless prisoners. Instead, they had created a network of Ensderer, humans who were working together better than ever. Dr. Kevin Chang was in the next cell over, and he had been studying the alien guards. Kevin had been a psychologist before the war, and he was fascinated by alien behavior. Colonel Thompson, Kevin whispered. I've been watching the guards, and I think I understand something important about them. What's that? They're not individuals the way we are. They think as a group. When one guard makes a decision, the others just follow along. They don't question orders or think for themselves. Beth thought about this. How does that help us? If we can confuse one guard, we can confuse all of them. And if we can make them doubt their orders, they won't know what to do. Kevin had been testing this theory. He would ask guards simple questions that didn't have easy answers. Questions like, why do you think humans sing when they're sad? Or, what do you think dreams are for? The guards would get frustrated because they couldn't give simple answers. They would argue with each other about what they were supposed to say. Sometimes, they would even ask their supervisors for instructions on how to answer basic questions. It's working, Kevin said. They're starting to question things. I heard 2 guards arguing yesterday about whether humans are actually dangerous or just confusing. In another part of the prison, Marcus Johnson was putting his plan into action. He had volunteered for kitchen duty because it let him move around the prison more than other prisoners. What the aliens didn't know was that Marcus had been a runner in college. He was still fast, and he was very good at moving quietly. During his 3-minute window, Marcus slipped into the east corridor and found the communication room. He had learned how to work the alien equipment by watching the guards. It wasn't that different from human technology, just more advanced. Marcus sent a coded message to the resistance fighters outside the prison. The message was hidden inside what looked like a request for more food supplies. But the real message said, prisoners ready. Need distraction at Northgate tomorrow at noon. Marcus made it back to the kitchen before the guards noticed he was gone. He had been doing this for weeks, coordinating between the prison and the outside resistance. The aliens thought they had cut off all communication, but humans were good at finding ways to talk to each other. That evening, Linda Patterson was leading what looked like a prayer meeting in the main prison yard. The aliens allowed this because they thought it kept the prisoners calm. What they didn't realize was that Linda was using the meeting to pass information between different cell blocks. Let us remember our friends who are not with us, Linda said in a loud voice. But she was also making hand signals that told the other prisoners about the escape plan. The aliens had studied human religions and decided that prayer meetings were harmless. They didn't understand that humans could use anything to communicate, even things that looked completely innocent. During the meeting, Linda told stories about Earth. She talked about mountains and oceans and forests. She talked about families and friends and pets. She talked about all the things that made humans human. The aliens listened to these stories and thought they were meaningless, but the prisoners understood. Linda was reminding them of what they were fighting for. She was keeping their hope alive. After the meeting, Beth gathered her cellmates around her. "Tomorrow is the day," she said quietly. "The Resistance is going to create a distraction at the North Gate. When that happens, we make our move. What if it doesn't work?" asked one of the younger prisoners. Beth looked at him seriously. "Then we try again the next day, and the day after that, and the day after that. We keep trying until it works." "But what if they punish us?" "They're already punishing us," Beth replied. "They think that putting us in cages will make us give up. But they don't understand something important about humans. We don't give up. We get stubborn." Marcus nodded. "The Colonel's right. I've been watching the guards, and they're getting more frustrated every day. They expected us to be broken by. Now, instead, we're causing more problems than when we were free." Kevin smiled. "It's because they don't understand human psychology. They think suffering makes humans weak. But suffering often makes humans stronger and more determined." Linda looked around at the group. "My grandmother used to say that humans are like tea bags. You don't know how strong they are until you put them in hot water." The next day, exactly at noon, explosions echoed from the North Gate. The Resistance attack had begun. Sirens wailed throughout the prison as alien guards ran toward the noise. Beth gave the signal. All across the prison, humans began moving. They picked locks, disabled security systems, and created confusion in the alien communication networks. Some prisoners escaped completely. Others stayed behind to help more prisoners get out later. The aliens were completely unprepared for what happened. They had expected desperate, unorganized prisoners. Instead, they faced a coordinated operation that had been planned for weeks. As Beth led her group toward freedom, she realized something important. The aliens had made a huge mistake. They thought the prison would break human spirit. Instead, it had made humans more united than ever. Humans, Beth thought, were at their best when things were at their worst. And the aliens were about to learn that lesson the hard way. Dr. Paul Mitchell was working by candlelight in what used to be a subway tunnel under New York City. The tunnel was now humanity's most important research laboratory, hidden 50 feet below ground where alien scanners couldn't find it. Paul was trying to solve a problem that should have been impossible. He had pieces of alien technology spread across makeshift tables. Some pieces came from crashed alien ships. Others came from weapons that resistance fighters had captured. Paul was trying to make them work with human equipment, even though every engineering textbook said it couldn't be done. "Any luck with the power coupling?" asked engineer Sophie Clark from across the tunnel. Sophie had been working for 3 days straight on a device that combined an alien energy cell with a human radio transmitter. "Getting closer," Paul replied. "The alien technology uses quantum resonance frequencies that shouldn't work with our electronics, but I think I found a way to trick it." Paul had discovered something strange about alien technology. It was incredibly advanced, but it was also very rigid. Everything had to work exactly the right way, or it wouldn't work at all. Human technology was messier, but it was also more flexible. "What if we don't try to make them compatible?" Sophie suggested. "What if we just force them to work together?" Paul looked up from his work. Sophie had a point. Humans were good, making things work even when they shouldn't. They used duct tape and wire and creative thinking to solve problems that engineers said were impossible. "Show me what you mean." Sophie brought over her device. It looked like something a mad scientist might build. Alien components were connected to human parts with copper wire, electrical tape, and what looked like pieces from a car engine. "It shouldn't work," Sophie said. "The frequency harmonics are all wrong. The power levels don't match." The interface protocols are completely different. But watch this. She pressed a button and the device came to life. Lights flashed, energy hummed, and suddenly they could hear voices from resistance groups across the country. "That's impossible," Paul said. "I know," Sophie grinned. "But it works anyway." In another part of the tunnel, General Patricia Lewis was planning military operations that made no sense on paper. Patricia had been a career military officer before the war, but now she was learning to think like a civilian. "The aliens expect us to fight like soldiers," she explained to her staff. "They expect formations and strategies and logical tactics. So we're going to do the opposite." On her planning table was a map of the city covered with colored pins. Each pin represented a different type of operation. Some were military attacks, others were pranks. Some were rescue missions. Others were designed just to confuse the aliens. "Captain Parker, I want you to take your team and steal every stop sign in downtown Manhattan." Captain Steve Parker looked confused. "Ma'am? The aliens use our road signs to navigate when they're on foot. If we remove all the signs and put them in the wrong places, they'll get lost. While they're wandering around confused, Team B will hit their supply depot." Patricia had learned that aliens thought in patterns. They expected human military tactics to follow rules and make logical sense. But Patricia was mixing serious military operations with pranks, art projects, and random acts of mischief. "And Team C?" Steve asked. "Team C is going to paint murals on the sides of buildings. Beautiful murals of earth animals and flowers and sunsets." "How does that help us fight?" "Because it confuses them," Patricia explained. "They can't understand why humans would waste time on art during a war. They'll spend hours trying to figure out if the murals are secret codes or hidden weapons. While they're analyzing paint and brushstrokes, Team D will be sabotaging their communications array." Dr. Alex Turner was working in the deepest part of the tunnel system, studying alien biology and technology. Alex had been a biochemist before the war, and he had made an incredible discovery about the aliens. "General Lewis, you need to see this," Alex called out. Patricia walked over to Alex's workspace, which looked like a combination laboratory and art studio. Alex had been studying captured alien equipment and biological samples for months. "What did you find?" "The aliens are more predictable than we thought," Alex said. "Their biology and their technology both follow very rigid patterns. They can't adapt the way we can." Alex showed Patricia a series of charts and graphs. "Look at this. Their technology always uses the same power frequencies. Their weapons always fire in the same patterns. Their biology always responds the same way to certain stimuli." "What does that mean for us?" "It means we can predict what they'll do. More importantly, it means we can design countermeasures that they can't adapt to." Alex had been working on what he called biological confusion devices. They were simple machines that created sounds, smells, and light patterns that disrupted alien senses and thinking. "Their brains are wired to process information in very specific ways," Alex explained. "If we overload them with the right kind of sensory input, they literally can't think straight." Back at Paul's workstation, he had finally solved the power coupling problem. His solution was elegant in its simplicity and completely impossible, according to alien engineering principles. "Sophie, come look at this," he called. Sophie hurried over to see Paul's latest creation. It was a weapon that combined alien energy technology with a human microwave oven and parts from a car radio. "This should explode if you turn it on," Sophie said. "I know. But it doesn't. Watch." Paul activated the device. Instead of exploding, it created a beam of energy that cut through alien armor like butter. The weapon was completely impossible, but it worked perfectly. "How?" Sophie asked. "I stopped trying to make it work the right way," Paul said. "Instead, I made it work the human way. I used shortcuts and workarounds and creative solutions that shouldn't exist. As word spread through the tunnel network, more and more resistance fighters came to see the impossible weapons and devices. Each new invention was stranger than the last, but they all worked. Someone had built a communication device out of alien technology and kitchen appliances. Someone else had created armor from alien materials and sports equipment. Another team had built a vehicle that combined alien propulsion with parts from a garbage truck. General Patricia Lewis looked around at the chaos and smiled. 6 months ago, these people had been teachers and mechanics and doctors and students. Now they were building technology that shouldn't exist and planning military operations that made no logical sense. But it was working. Every day, the aliens became more confused and frustrated. They couldn't predict what humans would do next because humans weren't following any rules. "Status report," Patricia called out. "Power systems are online and impossible," Paul reported. "Weapons are functional and shouldn't exist," Sophie added. "Biological countermeasures are ready and completely insane," Alex said. "Strategic operations are planned and make no sense," Steve finished. Patricia nodded. "Perfect. That's exactly what I wanted to hear." As she looked around the tunnel at her impossible army with their impossible weapons, Patricia realized something important. The aliens had made a fundamental mistake about humanity. They thought that superior technology would force humans to fight by alien rules. Instead, humans had changed the rules entirely. They had created a new kind of warfare that combined science and art, military tactics and pranks, advanced technology, and duct tape solutions. The aliens were about to face something they had never encountered before. An enemy that got more creative when things got worse, more innovative when things seemed hopeless, and more human when everything seemed impossible. "All right, people," Patricia announced. "Time to show these aliens what happens when you mess with a species that thinks outside the box." Admiral Catherine Wright stood on the bridge of her flagship, looking at the biggest alien fleet humanity had ever seen. 300 massive ships hung in space above Earth like a dark cloud. The aliens had decided to end the war once and for all. Catherine's fleet was much smaller. Only 50 ships, and most of them were built from parts that shouldn't work together. Human ships welded to alien technology. Weapons that combined Earth materials with captured alien equipment. Engines that ran on theories that alien scientists said were impossible. "Admiral, incoming message from the alien flagship," reported. Captain Steve Parker, who had been promoted after his successful street sign operation in Manhattan, put them on screen. Commander Vex appeared on the main display. He was the same alien who had first contacted the space station a year ago. He looked tired and frustrated. "Admiral Wright, we have come to end this conflict. Your species has caused enough confusion. Surrender now, and we will make your defeat quick." Catherine smiled. "Commander Vex, I have a better idea. How about you surrender to us?" The alien commander's black eyes widened. "You have 50 primitive ships. We have 300 advanced vessels. You cannot be serious." "I'm always serious when I'm about to do something impossible," Catherine replied. Dr. Jonathan Hayes, who was serving as Catherine's advisor, stepped forward. Jonathan had been studying alien psychology and culture for months. He understood how their minds worked better than any human alive. "Commander Vex," Jonathan said, "before we begin fighting, I have a question for you. In all your conquests, has any species ever asked you why you want to conquer them?" Vex looked confused. "Why you ask this question? The answer is obvious. We conquer because we are stronger. But why do you want to be stronger? To conquer more species. But why do you want to conquer more species?" Vex was quiet for several seconds. because that is what we do. Jonathan nodded. You conquer because conquering is what you've always done. But has anyone ever asked you if it makes you happy? Happy? What is meaning of happy? Catherine watched as Jonathan continued his psychological attack. The aliens had never questioned their own motivations. They conquered because their society told them to conquer. They had never thought about whether they actually wanted to do it. Admiral called out Dr. Nancy Foster from the science station. Nancy had been working on a special project for weeks. The psychological disruptors are ready. Nancy had designed devices that broadcast confusing signals directly into alien ship communications. The signals didn't damage anything. They just asked questions that aliens had never thought about before. Questions like, what is your favorite color? And do you ever wonder what clouds taste like? And if you could have any pet, what would it be? Nancy explained. Activate the disruptors, Catherine ordered. Across the alien fleet, strange messages began appearing on communication screens. Aliens who had never thought about individual preferences suddenly found themselves wondering if they liked blue better than green. Soldiers who had never questioned orders started asking their commanders why they were fighting. Commander Vex's image flickered as his own ship's communications were flooded with impossible questions. What are you doing to us? We're making you think, Jonathan replied. Something your society apparently never taught you to do. Catherine gave the signal to attack. The human fleet moved forward, but not in any formation the aliens recognized. Instead of fighting like a military force, they fought like humans. Some ships attacked directly. Others played music at full volume. Some fired weapons while others broadcast cooking shows and comedy programs. Captain Steve Parker was commanding a shipmate from a destroyed alien cruiser welded to parts of a human cargo vessel. His weapons were built from alien technology and kitchen appliances. When he fired them, they created explosions that looked like fireworks. This is Parker to all ships, he announced. Remember, we're not trying to destroy them. We're trying to confuse them so badly that they forget how to fight. Dr. Nancy Foster had loaded the human ships with every piece of impossible technology they had developed. Weapons that shouldn't work. Shields that operated on wrong principles. Engines that violated alien understanding of physics. Every time the aliens tried to analyze human technology, they became more confused. Nothing humans built followed logical patterns. Everything worked, but nothing made sense. In the middle of the battle, something unexpected happened. Some of the alien ships stopped fighting. Admiral, we're receiving a message from one of their cruisers, Steve reported. Put it through. A different alien appeared on screen. This one looked younger than Commander Vex, and his voice was uncertain. Human ships, this is Sub-Commander Tal. I've been listening to your questions. I've been thinking about ... things. I do not want to conquer anymore. It makes me tired. What do you want to do instead? Jonathan asked. I think I want to see your Earth. I want to understand why you fight so hard for it. I want to know what makes you happy. More alien ships began broadcasting similar messages. The psychological warfare was working better than anyone had hoped. Aliens who had never questioned anything were suddenly full of questions. Commander Vex's voice crackled over the communications. All ships, return to formation. Ignore the human psychological attacks. But many of his ships didn't obey. For the first time in their lives, alien soldiers were thinking for themselves. Catherine made a decision that surprised everyone, including herself. All human ships, cease fire. Admiral? Steve asked. Open a channel to the entire alien fleet. When the channel was open, Catherine spoke directly to every alien in the battle. Attention, alien fleet. We don't want to destroy you. We want to offer you something your empire never has. We want to offer you choice." She paused, letting her words sink in. "You can keep following orders that make you tired and confused. Or you can come to Earth and learn what it means to be free. You can discover what makes you happy. You can choose your own path." The battle stopped. Several minutes, nobody fired any weapons. Both fleets just hung in space, while aliens tried to understand what humans were offering. Finally, Commander Vex spoke. His voice was different now, quieter, less certain. "You would welcome US, even after we attacked you. We would welcome anyone who wants to learn and grow and be better," Catherine replied. "That's what humans do. We try to help each other become the best versions of ourselves." One by one, alien ships began powering down their weapons. Some aliens chose to return to their empire, but many others chose to stay and learn about this strange concept called freedom. Sub-Commander Tal was among the first to request permission to visit Earth. When he arrived, he was amazed by everything he saw. Humans who chose their own jobs, art that served no practical purpose, music that existed just because it was beautiful. "How do you decide what to do each day?" he asked Dr. Jonathan Hayes. "We think about what would make us happy and what would help other people," Jonathan replied. "Then we try to do both." Tal thought about this for a long time. "On my world, we are told what to do. We never choose. Would you like to learn how to choose?" "Yes," Tal said. "I think I would like that." Very much. 6 months later, the war was officially over. Not because one side had defeated the other, but because the aliens had learned something they never knew existed. They learned that there were other ways to live besides conquest and control. Many aliens returned to their empire to share what they had learned. Others stayed on Earth to continue learning about freedom and choice and happiness. Admiral Catherine Wright was promoted to head of the new Human-Alien Cooperation Council. Her job was to help aliens learn how to think for themselves and help humans learn from alien knowledge and technology. As she looked out at Earth from her space station, surrounded by both human and alien colleagues working together, Catherine realized something important. Humanity hadn't won the war by being stronger or smarter or more advanced. They had won by being more human than anyone else knew how to be.